All right, we are live. Welcome to Geeks Worldwide presents Pressing and Key. I am, of course, your host, Michael Schluger, now new and improved with glasses. And we have a fantastic show for you this week. Bit light, but doesn't mean we don't have things to talk about. Let me introduce the crew. We have Josh Irwin.
Howdy.
How's it going, my friend?
Good, good.
It's not much there today. You know, I feel like gaming news right now is sort of like in a wave. Like it comes in one week and it's heavy, and then comes out and it's light.
Well, we got Gamescom next week, so
that's true. That's true. So that definitely is part of it. Our other member of the crew, of course, Yahel. Always good to have you.
It's good to have you too. The smarter Schlugers here.
That's right. Upgrade, baby. More like the dog scratched my cornea and now I need glasses to see. But the important thing is, yeah, I didn't lose an eye, so I can't really.
Yes.
Anyways, So let's start with a PSA, right? Pretty minor one, but I feel like we owe it to say this. BattleNet is now BattleNet again.
Oh,
so you can breathe easy.
You know what?
Don't have to. What was the horrible name that they came up with it?
BattleTech, or was it Blizzard Tech?
No, it was Blizzard something. I think
It's Blizzard BattleNet now. It was just like Blizzard Launcher is all it was.
Yeah, I think it was Blizzard Launcher or something like that.
Oh, you know what? It's been so long since I played anything on Blizzard on BattleNet that I didn't even know like this was like a thing that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I actually play Blizzard stuff all the time, so I use the BattleNet launcher constantly. I think the interesting thing here was that when they announced Destiny, they kept referring to it as BattleNet, even though by that time the name had changed, and that caused like a bunch of confusion. And I think at that point they kind of just threw their hands up and said, "Fuck it, it's not a big deal. Let's just all call it BattleNet because it's easier that way."
Right.
So that's
well, good for Blizzard. There was no need to change it in the first place.
Agreed.
Great.
Agreed. So pretty quick, pretty simple. I don't
like somebody at Blizzard was just like, you know what, guys, you know what we got to do? You know what we need to make a priority? Changing BattleNet's name.
Well, what was crazy was that so it happened, and then like a month later they announced the new Destiny, and that Destiny would be on BattleNet. So they changed the name to just the Blizzard Launcher, and then a month later they were hyping Destiny 2 on BattleNet, which they said did not exist anymore. So
essentially,
yeah, it was a really strange thing.
It all worked out.
Yeah.
In the end, it doesn't matter. It's all good, right? But that's not the only bit of Blizzard news we have for the week. Very interesting sort of development. So obviously, the remastered version of StarCraft came out. I think it was earlier this week, if I'm not mistaken. It's only, I think, what was it, $15, $20, something like that. It's not expensive.
Yep, it's
15. Yeah, very cheap. And people kind of suspected that this was the case long before it was ever announced, because there was a job posting on Blizzard's website for developer for StarCraft, basically for the original StarCraft. So people knew something was up, and so. Similar thing now is starting to happen with Warcraft 3, where there's not a job posting, but they're actually releasing an update to Warcraft 3, even though the game is a decade old, more than that really at this point, 15 years ago for Warcraft 3. That's kind of crazy. So they're implementing a PTR, public test realm, to test balance changes. So that says to me that they're going to be releasing a update to Warcraft 3 in the same vein as the StarCraft Remastered, where they're going to update all the polygons and make it nice and pretty and 4K and all that good stuff. Do you guys agree, or what? I mean, what was your take on this? Excited about this one? Do you want to play Warcraft 3 again?
I mean, this wouldn't make. I wouldn't start playing again because of this, but it's cool. I mean, it's nice to see, that it hasn't been abandoned. This does no harm to anyone. Obviously, I don't think anyone's going to be upset about it.
Well, let me rephrase the question. If they released a remastered version of it, would you play that?
Maybe.
I'm going to take that as a no. What were you going to say, Josh?
Well, first of all, it is the internet, so people are going to be upset. We can't fathom why, but it'll happen.
Fair.
But I don't know. Like, I think it's kind of a weird move. To me, Warcraft 3 was the least. Warcraft 2 is the classic Warcraft. That's the one I want to go back and play in high definition, personally. So maybe it's an attempt to broaden their esports market. So maybe they're tired of looking at just StarCraft and they want to make another market that's Warcraft. I don't know. I think it's an interesting move, but Blizzard always supports its games for a long time. Just a few months ago, they released a Diablo 2 patch. So,
Yeah, that's true. I sort of agree and disagree with you at the same time about Warcraft 2 being the classic Warcraft. It's 15 years ago at this point, so I think any Warcraft is a classic Warcraft.
No, true, yeah.
I loved 3. I think at the time it was incredibly innovative because they introduced the hero class, and obviously without Warcraft 3, we wouldn't have Dota or League of Legends, or that entire MOBA category just really wouldn't exist without Warcraft 3 and the mods that came from it. Sure. But the story was epic and sweeping. And if you think about it, like in Warcraft 2, there wasn't as much of a distinction between like the humans and the orcs. There was a few different units, but you had completely different play styles in Warcraft 3, which I loved because the elves play so differently from the Tauren, that play so differently from the orcs, that play so differently from the undead. So it's very, very different. And I would genuinely enjoy a visually updated Warcraft 3, but I'm probably in the minority or somewhat minority on this one.
Are you just looking to give like a visual update because now you have these glasses? You just want to see what everything looks like.
If you go back and you look at the old Warcraft 3, it's fugly. It's kind of fugly, and especially because you had at the time, you know, it had fully voiced dialogue between the different characters during the important sort of cinematic moments, and in the each character had a portrait. And the animation totally did not match up to whatever the audio was. Mm-hmm. So that always bothered me, even back then when I was much younger, obviously. So I'd love to see them fix, little things like that. But also, Blizzard has such a beautiful art department and put so much detail, at least on the art side, into all their models. I would love to see that come through in the game as well. Obviously, it was a hardware limitation back then, technological limitation back then.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So I'd like to see that fully realized. And I see Ranjani's watching us, so she's at peak nostalgia for Warcraft 3. It's true, 15 years. It doesn't get any more peak than that. So, except maybe 20. But there's actually one more. Is there? Yeah. There's one other Blizzard story. This is kind of interesting. It refers to StarCraft Remastered. It has to do with Korea, of all places. Obviously, StarCraft is massive in Korea. The difference is in Korea, a lot of people don't really play video games at home. They tend to play them in a what's called a PC bank in Korea. And I wish Chris was here because I'm sure he could tell us a lot of information about them. But basically, huh?
No, I'm sure he has lots of information about the bangs.
I do. I think so. By the way, Chris, I know you're jealous because I look way cuter than you. Just putting that out there. So PC bangs, they are basically cafes. They're PC cafes where people would go and play all sorts of video games, not just StarCraft. But Blizzard Korea is doing something different this time around. What they're doing is they're charging the PC banks about the equivalent of 20 cents per hour that someone plays the remastered version of StarCraft at the cafe, and the stores are having none of it. They have actually filed a suit of saying that Blizzard is breaching a local antitrust law, which is kind of crazy to me. Like, because 20 cents per hour doesn't seem like that much. I'm not sure how much they're charging the people that play StarCraft, but I imagine it's more than 20 cents an hour.
Probably. And it's a better value than I got playing like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the arcade back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Maybe it's just a thing where they don't want that line to be crossed, period. Maybe it's 20 cents now, but their fear is that maybe next time it's 50 cents an hour or whatever. So I see where they're coming from.
Interesting. So, for the original version of StarCraft, there was no charge. It was once they bought the copy of StarCraft, they, anyone could play it as much as they wanted. But Blizzard Korea is saying, well, this is a different game, is basically their argument. This is a new game with different elements, and that the new game offers attractive perks such as extra experience points to PC Bank players, which I didn't know that experience points was a thing. Maybe there's like a cosmetic element to StarCraft Remastered that I'm not familiar with.
Could be.
But I mean, that was a weird thing to me. It didn't quite add up.
Yeah, I think they said too that you get achievements now in StarCraft Remastered. Like, I think you can actually earn achievements in it. I think that was another thing that they said.
Yeah, but why is? I mean, I imagine that anyone that's going in there to play the game is going to play it multiplayer, right? I don't think anyone's going to go in there to replay through the story again, because again, this
for sure
has been out for a long, long time. By the way, the original StarCraft, if you want to play the non-HD version, is free at this point. So if you really want to check it out, you can.
Yeah, the PC Bongs also accused Blizzard of making the original StarCraft hard to play on their modern systems. Like, that was another quote in that article.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what that means or how StarCraft or how Blizzard is doing that, but
yeah, it's weird, right? In fact, I believe that Blizzard made the two games compatible to the point that you could save a replay in StarCraft and load said replay in the remastered without an issue.
I think you can play against people who are on both.
I believe yeah. So I don't know where these charges are coming from. It's quite odd, honestly. But I'm curious to see how it shakes out. And this is something so foreign to us in the US because everyone, for the most part, games at home. I'm sure there's a PC cafe or gaming lounge in your local city, but there's probably like one and probably smells bad.
And it's probably going out of business.
And it's probably going out of business. This is true. So yeah, I don't know. Weird, right?
Yep. Yeah. Just a completely different culture, South Korea and China, and just the way that they play games is strange.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. Next story we have, loosely tied into Blizzard in the sense that it follows Dota, deals with Dota, which is obviously started off as a mod to Warcraft 3. We talked about this last episode that recently it was the World Championships, right, for Dota 2. At the World Championships, they had a special sort of event going on where they had an AI play against Dota 2 pros, and the AI won. Having said that, there are some caveats. It was only 1 versus 1, and they could only use one character who is called Shadow Fiend. So that was the issue. That was the catch, as it were. But in that specific situation, the pros could not beat the AI, and that is kind of crazy. Yeah. And so the people who made the AI says not only are they working on teaching it other characters, but they're working on a bigger version where it'll be like 3 versus 3 or something like that. Are you guys worried that the AI revolution is coming?
Well, you know what's funny? Elon Musk has been in the news recently for trying to warn people about the dangers of AI. So it's kind of interesting that it's his company building this. I guess maybe they're thinking, hey, how can we alarm people? I know.
Well, the funny thing is he considers this okay because this is a very specific application of the AI. So he's cool with this. I think he's very much against like a neural network AI that's just sort of unleashed out there onto the internet, which has been done a couple of times as chatbots.
Yeah, there's that open AI project too that's out there that's kind of big. So
right.
I kind of wonder like what things has Elon Musk and like Stephen Hawking seen that we haven't seen that actually makes them that scared of it all? Like, because they must have seen some stuff behind closed doors that made them go, okay, what the fuck now?
Well, I recall reading, and this is going slightly off topic, that when we do this, the AIs start inventing their own language.
Oh yeah, I read that. Yeah,
that they stop using English and they start creating their own, and that scares the fuck out of people.
That just happened. I can't remember.
I can't remember either. And they like shut it down.
Right.
Yeah, they're like,
So, and I understand that's kind of frightening.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, when Stephen Hawking like came out warning about it, I mean, he's warning us not to talk to aliens. He's always like warning us about things that are kind of like, that doesn't really make sense. But when Elon Musk, you hear him, like say, hey man, this is trouble. It's like, oh,
actually makes a lot of sense. What Bill Gates says, or not Bill Gates, Stephen Hawking says when he says don't talk to aliens. He makes, I mean, do you know what his argument is, Yahel?
Yeah, no, I do know his argument, but I mean, I just also think that that's still a pretty big assumption at the same time. I'm not saying he's wrong. I mean, I just think like,
I mean, better safe than sorry. I would say at this point, we, any aliens out there that are capable of intergalactic, flight or faster than light speed travel can probably kick our ass in a fight. So best not to make ourselves know.
But if they made it to that lengthy of a civilization, they probably have gotten over petty squabbles like that.
That is the counter argument. Yes.
And who knows if other races, if aliens,
maybe they've united to enslave everyone else.
I mean, maybe fighting was never even a thing for them. That could be an intrinsically human thing.
True.
I doubt that.
Yeah, probably not.
I doubt that.
Well,
I mean, that very much.
Who's to say we're not already talking to aliens?
Well, who's to say that aliens aren't
glasses.
listening? I don't know about us talking to them, but that's. I feel like we're entering. What's that late night radio?
Ancient Aliens. The TV.
Oh no, that's the History Channel. No, that AM. There's that.
I love that show.
You guys do know that aliens came down to help Blizzard build Warcraft. You know that, right?
Yeah, they modeled the orcs after him, and the orcs were supposed to win. That was the whole point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, everyone knows that, duh. But yeah, so no, this is really interesting to me, though. If you think about it, anytime we've seen AI touted, right, as AI beats humans, it's always been in a two-dimensional game, a game like chess, a game like Go. That was a big deal because obviously the potential moves for Go are so massive that you can't just brute force the calculations like we did back in the 90s with Deep Blue versus Kasparov. For anyone that knows their history, that was a brute force machine. That was a machine that was designed to calculate every single possible move in like 2 seconds and then pick one. That was the best move. Fast forward a decade, we have an AI that plays Go, the Chinese game of Go, and also beats the best Go player in the world, hands down. In fact, I believe it beat like 3 Go players that were like, they were talking to each other. Like the 3 players were professionals, were talking to each other and trying to pick the best moves collectively. Still couldn't beat the AI. And that's a big deal because that one's not a brute force calculation because there's too many possible moves. The board is too big. It's 16 by 16. This is different, right? This is, now we're in a 3-dimensional space. And you have to not only keep track of all the pieces, you have to keep track of the mobs that are going up and down the lane. You have to keep track of your own abilities, the other players' abilities. Just in that context, this is kind of fucking crazy that this thing beat the pros. Not just kept up with them, not just like, put up a good fight. It beat them.
Yeah, and even though, like you said earlier, there were a lot of caveats to it, was a very, very specific game types, but it beat them every time. It was what I thought was pretty impressive. It wasn't just like a one-off thing or whatever. Every time.
And again, this thing is using what's called neural network learning. What it does is it plays the game with itself hundreds upon thousands of times over and over and over and over and over again until it becomes good. And that's crazy to me. That is just, think about that process. It's insane.
That is pretty crazy. But I think I read too that they were using what they learned about this to help develop AI for like surgeries and stuff like that. Like that's why they wanted it to work in a 3-dimensional space.
That makes sense. That's
so
cool.
I thought that was kind of neat that Dota could have some influence on the way future surgeries are performed by robots. Like
now, one more thing I want to highlight, which I think was really interesting, was they put the bot out. Right, the company put the bot out and said the first 50 people who can beat this will get like some really cool cosmetic limited edition stuff. And when they put it out to like the people who were attending the championship, they did it. They beat them. The people beat the bot.
Yeah, they figured out a way to cheese it. Yeah,
they cheesed it. So they did things like distract the enemy creeps or buying unusual items. So they did things that were so out of the ordinary for, what the AI had, experienced already, that it played a lot worse versus, pros that have a very sort of specific path that they tend to take when they're playing the character. So I thought that was really interesting as well. Let me just see here. I believe we only have 10 minutes more left in the show. We are trying a shorter format for anyone listening in from the usual. Our next topic, and I think we're almost up to the last one. No, two more to go. The first is The Secret World. Did anyone play this?
I've never heard of it until
I've never heard of this.
That's funny to me. So I had heard of it, but I had never played it. The Secret World was an MMO, semi-successful, that focused on like the occult and the supernatural, and it was based in modern times. And it's getting a TV show. It is being developed by Johnny Depp, of all people. And I don't know, this is kind of interesting in the sense that you don't really see too many video game properties being developed or being developed well. Are you guys gonna check this one out once it comes out?
I don't know. Maybe. I haven't even watched Castlevania yet.
Oh, it's good. You should watch it.
I know. That's what I keep hearing.
That's funny. I heard it was bad.
I heard towards the end it kind of tapers off a bit, but anyways, this isn't about Castlevania.
Interesting.
I don't know, man. I'm sure it'll be fine. I guess it's. I don't know anything about other than what I read in the article about it. So I don't know. I guess have to wait and see.
If any of our listeners out there have played it and are a fan of the Secret World and want to sort of come on the show and tell us a little bit more about it, I would absolutely love to do that. So reach out at Pack Podcast or just leave a comment below, and we'll do a little mini Secret World, special, and hear your thoughts. Because I knew of the game, but I never dipped my toes in. I was too deeply entrenched into World of Warcraft to ever play this one. So there's that. Our last regular story has to do with, and I don't even know where to begin with this one. Basically, this game came out called Tokyo 42. And then a few days later, this guy pops up on the internet and says, oh man, this game Tokyo 42 is a ripoff of a game called Tokyo 41. And he starts posting these images of, and like, I don't want to say just images, like video of this game that's done in this old school style on, it's like the ZX Spectrum.
I can tell you, it has to be pronounced ZX Spectrum, as many UK people have let me know in my YouTube comments.
I see. Okay. Thank you for that correction.
Hey, you're welcome.
So ZX,
Yes.
ZX, is that right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he was saying like this is a ripoff of a game I made 30 years ago, and he posted video of gameplay and all that stuff, and then people kind of went, what? And they started doing research and looking into it, and no one had heard of this game that supposedly had been around for 30 years. And at first the guy was like, oh, it was just sold in local shops and blah, blah, blah. It's definitely a thing. After a little more digging, it was revealed that it was the same person. The same person had developed both games. He felt that Tokyo 42 wasn't getting any attention. So he basically demade it into Tokyo 41 to get some attention in the news. And it worked. We're talking about it, right?
Yeah.
So my question is, A, what do you guys think it takes for a game to succeed in 2017? Is this something that everyone's going to have to do now? And B, I mean, what was your thought on this? Do you think this guy's like a marketing genius, or sort of like a big fat liar?
I don't know. I mean, it seems to be pretty tongue in cheek, right? So I mean, I think like had the guy actually trying to act like he's very like if he was very seriously trying to fool people, that'd be one thing. But it seems like it's tongue in cheek. I think it's good. It's a good idea. Getting a lot more attention than before.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting viral marketing plan.
Mm-hmm.
How do we do that with the podcast?
Do a teammate of our podcast.
We get old man makeup and like be like, oh, that's a rip off our podcast, our radio show.
They're redistributing our work.
What we need to do is we need to start doing the show in Morse code and just put up, just beep 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 beep. Just do that essentially for 30 minutes.
There you go. But yeah, I think it's cool. I totally agree with Josh. I think it's an interesting idea.
And it worked out. So
It did. Do you feel like every indie needs a gimmick now to succeed, or I
mean, certainly not every indie, but I mean, it's a crowded field, I mean, it's hard to get noticed even if you have a good game.
Mm.
And I'm looking at it, the ZX Spectrum version of it looks pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it does. I was just watching it too.
Yeah, it looks kind of dope.
Yeah, the interesting thing to me is, like his original game, Tokyo 42, sort of got okay reviews, not great. I think its overall Metacritic is 72. Which seems like a lot, but in the world of Metacritic, it's not.
Right.
Which is kind of mean to say. But yeah, no, it definitely got him a lot of attention. And it's a difficult question to answer. Like, is it a great marketing campaign that you need? Do you need something to go viral to be successful? What does it take? How far do you need to go? And this guy went pretty far.
Yeah,
I think it worked out. Hey, historic nerd, if you're going to use your decoder ring, it's only going to say "drink more Ovaltine." That's the only message we can send out in Morse code.
Oh my God, that's now I get it. Like this.
Sorry. Christmas story joke. It's it's a thing.
So that is it for the regular stories. We do have one what the fuck story for the week, and it involves Pornbots. They're a thing now, and they are invading your video game console. People on PlayStation Network and on Xbox are starting to be messaged by strangers asking them to come watch them do sexy things. And Josh, I believe you actually experienced this firsthand.
Yeah, I get them all the time because I have the PlayStation messaging app on my phone. I get these stupid things all the goddamn time. And it's kind of like, it's like they got bored of Tinder. They realized that the people in Tinder got wise to them, so they moved to PlayStation because they figured, well, lonely nerds are stupid. So
yeah, I've been getting them for a long time too on PSN. Maybe like 8 months or so. But
really?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how well they work. I never bother replying, or I don't even bother reporting. I'm playing real hard to get. with these porn bots. But yeah, man, I've seen them for a long time.
And so, Josh, you haven't actually like spoken to these bots either, right?
The first time I got the message, I didn't realize it was a bot, so I responded. I'm like, "Do I know you? What? Why are you messaging me? Like, how did you get my information?" Oh, I was just, I can't remember what she said. It was something like, "Oh, I was just lonely and
Thank you for doing the voice. That really helps sell the whole thing.
I was just lonely and was looking for somebody to chat with." And I'm like, "I'm PlayStation?" And then I realized what was going on. I'm like,
no, but wait, but you didn't know it was a woman, or did you know it was a woman?
That's very presumptuous of you.
Well, the name, okay, so like you saw the one earlier was Crystal something, and then
Crystal Drip or something like that, right?
Yeah, that sounds like an STD. But you got the Crystal Drip, man. That's not good.
Yeah, digital STD. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the first one I got was from Jenny Faith.
Okay.
She said, "Hey," and I said, "Hi, do I know you?" And she said, "I got your name from the member search here on PSN app because I was bored and looking for new people to talk to. How old are you?" And I stopped talking at that point.
I see. You should have said 6.
And then I got another one from Sprinkles Adina, which, okay.
These names, man.
Just
I'm
says
sure they're randomly generated.
And then Dripper Crystal, which I'm pretty sure is an STD. So yeah, those are the ones that I got just this week.
Interesting. So I mean, it must work to an extent because they keep happening, right? So
yeah,
I have a theory that it is somehow tied into the way that PlayStation is tied into Facebook, because I've been getting them a lot through Facebook lately too. Like a lot. I've been getting a lot of random friend requests.
Yeah, me too, for about 3 weeks.
Yeah, for like the last 3 weeks with women, their first picture is just cleavage and jugs, like it's I really do. I believe it has something to do with the way that they're tied to Facebook.
Interesting. I haven't gotten these messages.
Oh, poor Mike.
I know.
Now with the glasses, you will.
I'm too sophisticated. They can't handle it.
They know that they can't.
That's what it is.
We'll never fool them.
They're intimidated. I understand, good looks and all that stuff. So that's what it is. But yeah, no. What steps do you think Sony can take to kind of stop this stuff, if any? Right? Because we often make fun of Nintendo for having very strict policies when it comes to messaging, and it's very difficult to message another player. But in this particular instance, it's probably working to Nintendo's favor. I don't think too many of these porn bots are going to be showing up in Switch or on the Switch,
right?
Whatever the equivalent of the Switch texting app is, if there even is one. So yeah, what do you think should be done?
Sony doesn't even know how to let you change your gamer tag. So
I don't know. I don't. I mean, what more can they do besides try adding filters and whatever? Because I mean, I'm sure they already have some anti-spam weeding stuff. I'm sure they'll just keep using that stuff. What can they really do? You can't eliminate it 100%. And I don't have kids, so I don't care.
Right. Well, I'm sure you probably know, but other people, I'm sure, have kids.
No.
Playing on no kids play PlayStation.
Seriously, this kind of shit is the reason that, like, when I have kids, why they won't play with a console that is actively online without my being in the room. It's just
so I was thinking you could just restrict it so that you can set an age for each ID on the PlayStation, and then you need to password protect each ID so your kids can't just log in as you, without putting in the password. And then, if they're under 18 or whatever, they can't be, or maybe under 16 or something, they can't be messaged through the PlayStation. But I agree with you that Sony's not very good at these things, so I totally don't think either of those things are going to be implemented. So
I mean, it's obviously a problem on Facebook lately, and they're completely silent about it too. So
yeah,
interesting. Well, you know what? Believe it or not, that is all we have, honestly, for this week, because of Gamescom. But as always, we'd love to hear from you guys. If you enjoyed the show at all, make sure you hit like, subscribe, or comment below. We always want to hear back from you guys. And next week, I think, well, I'm traveling, so I don't know if we're going to do a show next week, but we're going to try and make it happen. I'll talk to you guys after the podcast. But until next time, I have been your host, Michael Schluger.
Josh Irwin.
And Jahel.
Push a lot of keys for us. We'll see you next week.